the interesting one to talk about, which we've talked about before. We talked about it when Wemby went down. Draymond Green right now is the betting odds favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year as of right now, but he's right there with Evan Mobley. Jaren Jackson Jr., I think, will end up having missed too many games. He's not even in the conversation right now. Dyson Daniels is somebody who was getting a lot of talk and a lot of hype for it. But what do you think about the Draymond Green campaign for himself to win another Defensive Player of the Year, and the fact that, the response has been him being a favorite? And I want to say, as I said before, as a disclaimer, the betting odds don't necessarily always reflect who voters are going to vote for, but it does mean something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, is this like the most bizarre Defensive Player of the Year award race ever?
Sure.
Because even in saying this, Draymond has jumped up to the favorite. He has to play, I think, in like 10 of the last 11 games to also be eligible. So Wemby, not eligible. Draymond, potentially not eligible. Jaren Jackson Jr., potentially not eligible. It's just a weird year for DPOY. I will say this, the Draymond, I know that a lot of people are rolling their eyes at him becoming the favorite, and he's been really good defensively this year. Yeah. He has. He's been the back line holding it down for the Warriors all season long. He's the reason they were even competent on the defensive end. And post All-Star break, since Wemby has been out, I think Draymond has realized, okay, there's an avenue for me to get another Defense Player of the Year award, and he's been picking it up on the defensive end, at least in terms of counting stats. I was looking at it the other day. He's second to Dyson Daniels in stocks post All-Star break, steals plus blocks. So he has the numbers there to back it up. And I know that the body of work, maybe Evan Mobley in the way that he's carried the Cavs defense or played a huge reason as to why the Cavs have been as good as they have been defensively. I know there are a lot of people that feels like he deserves it, but I will say that, and I think you'll agree with this, Draymond has been such an impactful and pivotal defender in NBA history that it would actually age pretty well if he were to end up getting a second Defensive Player of the Year. He only has one right now, and he is probably one of the 5 best defenders, 10 best defenders in NBA history.
I would give him 10, 12. I'd have to think about it, but 10, 10, 12. That's
just off the top.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And it's he is someone who has changed the way that the NBA is played defensively, the switchability and being able to play small ball 5, and the way the teams have experimented with these small ball lineups. A lot of that has to do with the success the Warriors had with Draymond Green at 5. So I know that he's not everybody's favorite player, and he's not even my favorite player. But giving the respect that's due, Draymond is one of the best defenders that we've ever seen. If he were to get a second Defense Player of the Year award added to his trophy case, I actually think that would age pretty well in NBA history. Yeah.
So to that point, and again, you love him or hate him, he makes you feel something, right? And Draymond, certainly, I know it helps his case or helps whatever that he does talk quite a bit. But I think what people talk about a lot is oh man, put him on the Magic, what would he do, or whatever. Put him on a random team. But the big thing about him, I think, is that Draymond would not be Draymond if he didn't play for the Warriors. The Warriors would not be the Warriors if it were not for Draymond Green. And I think that people realize that and recognize that. But like you said, the admission of that and where he stands as far as an all-time defender and what he's meant to the dynasty and the championships and the winning that they've done. And like you said, how a lot of people have tried to find their own version of that and realizing quite quickly that he is a one of one, and that is just the type of player that he is. We probably, I think, on top of him being, wherever you rank him all time defensively, there's a low chance that we see another Draymond Green. And if we do, it'll be a long time. You can try to replicate and do some things that he's done, but like you said, switchability, just him kind of having an opportunity to kind of be that quarterback of a defense. And the other thing that, we talk so much about Steph and Clay and Kevin Durant and their shooting, but those Warriors teams were so nasty defensively. It wasn't oh, hey, we're just outscoring you. We're going to beat you, 150 to 140. They were making you work, and he was the engine that made all that go. So to that point, from a historical standpoint, I know it's not a lifetime achievement award, which I'm sure if our guy Carlin Gay heard this, he'd be like, come on now, it's not a lifetime achievement. What are we doing here? But it is kind of in the situation where it's kind of by default, there's not really anybody else better, and him being consistent and him, again, the Warriors have been better the second half of the season, even though they're on slight little slump right now without Steph. I don't think it's that egregious to say. I think Dyson Daniels has a very fun case, but the team's success isn't really there for Atlanta. Their defense as a whole isn't. I mean, he holds it together as best he can. And I think that it's weird to evaluate the perimeter players on defense. It's easy to use counting stats, but there are other things that measure impact as well. So with all those points and my long-winded discussion about that, I get why Draymond is the top of it. And I think it will come down to him and Mobley.
And I do think that the way that you started that, like Draymond almost started this narrative on his own.
No, seriously.
And now it's taken on a life of its own, and it's helped his case that he talks. But I also will say this, this is almost going to make me like come off as like a Mobley or Cavs hater, and I'm not that. Like Mobley has had an incredible season. I think that he also is someone that could be in the discussion for most improved player of the year. But, if Draymond does miss a couple more games and isn't eligible for defensive player of the year, Dyson Daniels, man, like it just feels like we haven't seen this level of an impact from the guard position on the defensive end. I know Marcus Smart was incredible during his defense player of the year season, but like Dyson Daniels, like his metrics and his stats are even more like the margin between him and the next most impactful guard on the defensive end is night and day. And like, it would be, I know we went, whatever it was, 25 years or something like that from the time that Gary Payton won DPOY to the time that Marcus Smart won DPOY. But like, this doesn't feel like a situation where it's like, oh, we should just like give it to him because like guards don't win it that often. And like, like he didn't deserve this, but like, here you go, Dyson Daniels. It's like, no, this guy has been wreaking havoc on the defensive end all season long. He's been one of the best defenders in the NBA all season long. The stats back it up. I know the Hawks defensively as a team don't necessarily have the same, defensive rating or whatever it is as like Mobley's Cavs do. But like, I feel like Dyson Daniels individually, the way he has impacted games defensively, the way that he has shut down just about every star player that he has been matched up against in the havoc that he causes on the defensive end, I really feel like he deserves defensive player of the year if Draymond's not out.
Yeah, because the last thing I was going to say about that is if we take him off of that defense, imagine how abysmal and horrible things would probably be for him. So that's the other part about it too. I don't have on-off numbers, and I think, again, it's a little bit trickier to look at that stuff with perimeter defenders and individual defenders in general. But, you watch enough and you see the impact that these guys have on the defensive end.